Welcome to the wacky world of Pearl Bailey High, where even the cafeteria smells like plot twists. Steve kicks things off by planning a quinceañera for his friend Toshi. Yup, quinceañera. Why? We don't know, and neither does Steve, who's too scared to ask without sounding racist. Spoiler alert, this becomes a running joke. Meanwhile, Snot bursts in babbling about clams and a mysterious grand opening at Aw Shucks, the hottest clam joint in town, where throwing shells on the floor is encouraged, and people love the sauce so much they get buried with it. Yep, rest in sauce. Naturally, the gang plans to attend. Fast forward to the grand opening. The gang rolls up in matching Shucks for Me shirts, and Barry drops the shocking revelation that Bruce Springsteen is a huge shucker. Steve tries his first clam on the clam throne but immediately regrets it. His disgusted face is Instagram gold. Enter Roger, now assistant manager of store number 52, who's preaching the clam gospel straight from the employee manual. Barry isn't buying it, though, and hilarity ensues as Roger enforces 1 sauce squirt per clam like it's federal law. Back at school, Steve's still trying to figure out how to ask Toshi about the quinceañera thing. Spoiler, he doesn't. The episode ends with the gang eating clams, the American flag waving, and Stan wrecking his car into the CIA building because why not? Moral of the story? Clams bring people together, sauce is life, and never underestimate the comedic potential of a quinceañera. Good morning, USA! Welcome back to the Smith house, where the mail isn't just piling up, it's raising questions. Francine discovers a mysterious stack addressed to Mr. Minor. Stan, being Stan, casually admits he's saving his 3rd federal strike for when the King Tut exhibit rolls back into town. Problem-solving mode? Run the mail through the CIA profiling machine. Naturally. Meanwhile, the gang at Pearl Bailey High is swept up in Aw Shucks mania. Students are rocking clam merch, the floors littered with shells, and Toshi declares he needs to give the place another shot. Steve looks worried, probably because he's still planning Toshi's quinceañera. Why? Nobody knows. Steve is too afraid to ask without sounding racist, which he announces every 5 minutes like it's a legal disclaimer. At the grand opening, the crew explores secret menu items like seaweed style, barnacle style, and the unfortunately named clam me. Steve's excitement for clams turns to regret the moment he says, "When do I get to slurp my first clam?" Gross? Sure. Predictable? Absolutely. Over at the counter, Roger has found his true calling as assistant manager Matt M. With the employee manual as his Bible, he preaches the 1 sauce squirt per clam rule with unsettling zeal. Customers love the sauce so much they want to be buried with it. Alive. Stan, still grappling with Mr. Minor's mail, flexes shirtless in front of the mirror, salutes the American flag with his gun, and heads to the CIA. Meanwhile, Steve awkwardly navigates clams, parties, and Toshi's cryptic insistence on quinceañera. So, here's the wild ride. Stan starts by crashing his car straight into the CIA building, as one does, before the gang shifts focus to the highly anticipated opening of the Aw Shucks restaurant. This place is hyped as the mecca of clams, where patrons gleefully chuck clam shells onto the floor. Classy, right? Roger, self-appointed assistant manager and full-time chaos agent, treats the employee manual like the Bible and his lectures as sermons. He proudly enforces the sacred rule of 1 squirt of sauce per clam, a decree met with universal disdain and at least 1 death glare from Barry. Meanwhile, Steve is preoccupied with Toshi's quinceañera. Yes, Toshi's still calling it that, awkwardly trying to question the name without, well, sounding racist. Spoiler, he fails. At Aw Shucks, Bruce Springsteen is allegedly a huge fan, dubbed the boss of shucking, and the crowd is rocking matching clam-themed merch. The gang takes a selfie in front of the sacred sauce tank, an act considered a rite of passage. Steve eventually earns the honor of sitting on the clam throne to slurp his first clam, a moment of anticipation that lands with the culinary equivalent of a shrug. The sauce, however, is the real star, so beloved that people reportedly get buried alive with it. Relax, they're living volunteers, apparently. Roger, ever the zealot, uses this as further proof of Shuck's divine culinary status. As the opening chaos wraps up, we see Stan flexing in a mirror before crashing his car again, Roger waving his bloody hands around for dramatic flair, and the gang yelling "Shucks for you, shucks for me, and all shucks, we're all clamily." It's pure, unhinged Americana, served with extra sauce.